sure I am good to go across all channels. Hey, good morning, everyone. It is Kimsey here. So glad to be here. And of course, we're having a problem on one of the channels. So hang on one sec. Let me try this again. Almost there. Give me 1 minute. This will just take a second to fix, hopefully. How's everyone's Monday going? I hope it's wonderful. We are almost to the point where we get a short week. I feel like the week between, first of all, there's the Christmas week. And then I feel like the week between Christmas and New Year's, everyone just kind of, goes MIA, which is great. Cool. So it's not going to let me go live on one of my channels. This is just one of those battles that I choose to not fight. So I'm going to let that go. So hello to people on YouTube, Facebook. We're going to have a little bit of a different approach today, which I'm pretty excited about. And what inspired this is the 8 millionth appointment where this came up. It is so common, but it is way more common when this happens. It's way more common around the holidays. So that's why that's why it came up so strongly today and why I thought it would be meaningful. So instead of talking about a health topic, like an educational health topic, rather, I'm going to talk about it's coaching. It's going to be like you're sitting in an appointment with me, like you're a client, and we're getting through the hiccups that inevitably come with creating a change in your life. And what I'm talking about specifically is perfectionist thinking. That might not mean anything to you on its surface. Some of you might hear that and you're like, oh, yeah, I already know that I have a tendency to do that. But I'm going to put a little nuanced twist on it to hopefully reach some more people where you're like, oh, I didn't know that was actually the root of that kind of thinking. So if you are guilty of starting a project and then you work on it for a little bit and then you stop, and then you work on it a little bit and then you stop, and then you work on it a little bit and you stop. Or if let's say you're starting some kind of new program, a weight loss program, an elimination diet, an exercise program, whatever it might be, and you're super consistent for maybe 3 days and then you stop. You take a break. The weekend comes. I had a birthday party. I went on a trip, a vacation. Life happens, in other words, and that interferes with your progress. So you take a couple days, few days where you don't follow the routine, and then you get back into it again. And then you notice you look 6 months out and that pattern has happened the entire time. If you are always, I'm going to start on Monday. I'm going to start this new thing on Monday. It's the holidays. I'm going to start this new thing on after the holidays. I'm going to start after the weekend. Or maybe it comes up as, I'm going to wait till the timing's not quite right. I'm going to wait until XYZ lines up. Or, I'm excited to start this new health program, but I'm getting all the details together. It's just not quite together yet. So I'm going to start, when everything is perfectly together. I have the perfect plan. That could be another way that this shows up. So let me know, drop in the comments if this resonates with you or not. I'm going to talk about where this is actually coming from and why the term perfectionism is really just a fancy term for procrastination. Why the term perfectionism is really just it's a cloak hiding a fear of failure is essentially what's happening. Now, don't get me wrong, perfectionist tendencies can absolutely, that means you have high standards for yourself. That can absolutely propel you to reach unimaginable success. It can work for you if you are aware of that tendency and you let it work for you, because it can also work against you. And that's what I'm talking about today. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Kimsey Berkwin. I'm an integrative nutritionist in my online nutrition and wellness practice called Progressive Health and Wellness, where I work with busy, ambitious men and women who are struggling with their mental and physical health. We take a root caused body mind approach to optimize overall health and wellness. So, this phenomenon, this perfectionist tendency, shows up, like I said, all the time in appointments. And it really ramps up around the holidays. And here's what it sounds like. The holidays are coming up. Like, I'm just not going to be able to stay on my plan. So I'll get back on track after the new year. Or I did my best, but when I got to my family's house, there was nothing there for me to eat. So I just ended up eating whatever they served. Normally I'm really good about exercise, but like it's the holidays. So I've taken a break. I haven't been as consistent. I'll get back at it in the new year. Those are different examples of how this shows up. How this shows up most prominently in regular day to day appointments, very consistent pattern. I'm 3 months into working, 3, 4, 5, 6 months into working with someone. We've laid out a very clear path. This is the nutrition plan. Eat this, not that. Take these supplements, take these lab tests. Like it's a very clear plan. And how this shows up is how are you doing on the how was tell me, how's everything going? I was doing really well on the plan. I was even noticing results. I was feeling a lot better, taking my supplements, I was exercising, I was following the nutrition plan. And then, I went out of town. And then it was my birthday. And then the holidays came up. And then it was the weekend. And I just didn't bother while I was out of town or it was the weekend or whatever it is. And so now I'm getting back on track. I know what I need to do and I'm doing it. I'm really getting it back on track. And this happens every time we meet for months on end. And so rather than following the plan consistently, and life happens, right? Maybe some of those things pop up here and there, but they're not the norm. What ends up happening is the person realistically, when you zoom out, the person is following the plan maybe 50% of the time. And the other 50% of the time, they're not. Sometimes the person is aware of this and they recognize, like, gosh, I feel so much better when I do it. I just need to be consistent, right? Seems like it's a problem of willpower. I just need to be consistent. Or they like, I make progress every time I do it, but then like, I something happens and it throws me off and I lose progress. Some people are aware of it. Some people aren't. And they actually end up questioning the program. They're not reaching their results and they question the program. And it's not until we do some questioning and some coaching where I'm like, essentially what I'm trying to get them to realize on their own is you're not following the program. Like following at 50% is not the same thing as following 100%. You can't expect 100% results when you're only putting in 50% effort. So sometimes it's that deeply subconscious for them that they feel like they're following the plan 100%. And maybe they're taking the supplements 100% of the time. Maybe they're super on top of their exercise routine, but like their nutrition is moderate, mediocre at best, right? Or vice versa. They're dialed in on their nutrition, but they're getting in the supplements like half the time, right? So sometimes they're aware of it, sometimes they're not. But what no one that is stuck in this pattern, the last thing I want to say too, another big way that this way of thinking comes out, that is black and white, all or nothing thinking. Well, I already ate that donut. I might as well not worry about the entire weekend, right? The whole weekend is screwed. I ate this one donut on Friday morning. And so now the whole week, like I'll just start back on my plan on Monday. Or the one donut, Oh, no, the whole rest of the day is screwed. I'll just, I'll start back later. That all or nothing thinking is another big clue to me that this mindset is at play. So what mindset am I talking about? And first of all, does this resonate with you? Do you notice yourself doing this? Do you know people that you see this happening in them? Let me know. Drop it in the comments if you do. So what mindset is at play is a form of perfectionism. What they're deeply subconscious, they're, like I said, no one that I have ever seen this show up as has ever said, oh, this is because I'm a perfectionist. No one has ever said that. What ends up coming out is what's deeply subconsciously happening is their mind says, well, if I can't be perfect at it, I shouldn't try at all. That's that black and white thinking. Well, I wasn't perfect today, so I'm just going to say F it to the rest of the day altogether. What that is actually a symptom of is a fear of failure. Perfectionism thinking is a fear of failure. If I don't do it above and beyond 100%, I have failed. There is no such thing as 80%. And sometimes 80% is awesome. It's definitely better than zero, right? So that's that black and white. It's zero failure or above and beyond perfect. It's a fear of failure because here's the thing. And if this resonates with you right now, I want you to write this down. What is causing that procrastination? What is causing the black and white thinking? What's causing the, oh, I already screwed it up. I'll start again on Monday. Oh, I'm getting my plan together. And when the timing is right, I'm going to launch. I'm going to jump into my business, my wellness plan, whatever it is. If I don't start, I can't fail. If I never start, I can't fail. That is the root of what's driving that behavior. So the holidays tend to really bring this up because the holidays challenge us in a lot of ways, right? They're a lot more stressful. We've got holiday parties, we've got travel, we're eating outside of our home a lot more often. There's indulgent foods, right? There's traditions, there's desserts, there's alcohol, there's indulgent foods. There's so many ways that the holidays, there's emotional triggers, right? There's our inner child becomes very rampant around the holidays. So there's a lot of triggers around the holidays. And like I said, when I see this come up, it comes up full force around the holidays. I don't, I am not a perfectionist. I am very happy sometimes doing 80%. Don't get me wrong. I will absolutely strive for 100% in some things that I do. But there are some things where I'm like, this is good enough. And I'm fine with that. I don't struggle with this. I also don't go into the holidays or birthday parties or anything like that thinking like, well, there's no way I'm sticking with my wellness plan. Like all hell's going to break loose from here. I'm just going to eat whatever the heck I want. Like, no, that's a complete lack of control, really and truly. Rather, the more empowering way to go into those scenarios, and this is where I'm going to talk about what do we do about this, is what are your priorities? What are your values? And how do we make those work around the rest of our lives, including the holidays? So, Rosemary is sharing here. I once read, before you eat something, say to yourself, am I eating this because I love myself? That's the answer. You have to put the right food in your body if you love yourself. I love that. Yes, that is exactly it. What you choose to eat is a reflection of how much you love yourself and your body. If you continue to eat food that doesn't agree with you, it's like deciding to stay in a toxic relationship. It doesn't love you back, and it's not going to change. I see this all the time where we unpack this pattern because Another way that this shows up is somebody knows gluten, for example, doesn't agree with them. It causes them to bloat, for example, every time, but they will continue to eat it and continue to ask me why they feel bloated. And I'm like, hmm, okay. If you touch a hot stove and it burns, you don't touch it again. What's interfering with that here? Why are we continuing to touch the hot stove and wondering, is it going to burn me this time? It did burn me. Why did it burn me that time? There's subconscious thinking, there's an emotional pattern beneath that. Okay, so what do you do about it? Number one, and this is really, really important. If you identify with this way of thinking will infiltrate so many areas of your life and will prevent you from reaching the goals that you want. Like I said, I end up working with clients. I start to really see this show up around month 4, where it's like, we're still having this conversation. Like, why are we still having this? We should be barely talking about your nutrition at this point because you're so dialed in. We've been doing this for 4 months. So, why are we still having this conversation? And that's the problem. It is preventing progress, it is preventing them from reaching their goals. So if you identify with this, let's get to the bottom of it. Let's pivot that and get you reaching your goals. So, number one, set smaller goals, good enough goals. 80% is awesome, right? So, think about what is your goal and how can you make it smaller and more achievable? If your excuse me, if your goal is to exercise 4 days a week, and you've been working at this for 4 months and you're not exercising 4 days a week, set the goal to exercise 2 days a week. Can you get in two? If you can commit to two, do that for a couple months, build up your confidence that you can do that, and then move up to three. Do that for a couple months, build up your confidence, then move up to four, right? Set a smaller goal that you know you can achieve. That's number one, is set smaller goals. If you're trying to change your way of eating, right? I have people start, let's just call it a paleo plan for simplicity's sake. So they're avoiding gluten and dairy and soy and corn and sugar and processed foods, all these things. If we've been at this for a while, we're still eating those foods regularly. Okay, let's just focus on gluten and sugar, right? That's it. For the next month, we're only going to focus on those things. And when you consistently are not eating those and you feel confident in that, then we'll move on to these others. So set smaller goals. Number two is set good enough goals. So I kind of overlap those. I'm going to separate them now. So set good enough goals. So going back to the exercise example, if your goal is to work out, let's just go back to 4 days a week, and you want to exercise for 30 minutes, 4 days a week. Well, if something comes up on one of your normal exercise days, can you get in 15 minutes? Can you move the exercise day to a different day? So bypass that one day and move it to a different day, but be very clear. You know what? Wednesday, that's normally when I go to the gym. Got this really early morning meeting. Can't do it today, but Friday, I'm going to block out my calendar. I've got it then. Can you just move it? So good enough goals. The elimination diet that I was talking about. You've set this goal, you're going to avoid these foods. And then you're traveling, you thought there was a restaurant that you could eat at, you don't have options. Okay, fine. You eat that one meal, something comes up, you eat that one meal, it's not compliant with the plan. How can we make the next meal better? Doesn't mean the whole day has to be screwed. How can we make the next meal better? So set smaller goals, set good enough goals. Third is focus on the progress, not the outcomes, not the results, not the end point. So let's say for a month, again, the exercise goal, your ultimate goal is to work out 4 days a week. But it's been hard to maintain that. So you want to focus on exercising for 15 minutes, 2 days a week. And if you build in that habit, focus on the progress that you make. How does your body feel different? How are you learning about a new exercise? Did you find a new gym or a new online program that you like? Did you buy new fitness equipment or new fitness clothes? Like all of those would be considered wins. Doesn't replace the fact that your ultimate goal is 4 days a week for 30 minutes, but focus on the minimal, the smaller goals that you've achieved, because so that way you're not feeling like a failure, you're feeling like a winner in these smaller arenas. So that's number 3, is focus on the progress, not on the outcomes. And number 4 is be have love for yourself, have compassion and patience. Starting something new will always involve hiccups. It'll always involve learning curves. And those hiccups and learning curves and experiences and setbacks, they're just part of the process. Doesn't mean that you failed. It means you're on the journey and you're becoming a different person the more you learn. I think entrepreneurship is one of the best examples for this one because that's so trying in so many ways, right? But if you wait until the perfect timing to start a business, you're never going to do it because it's never convenient to start a business. It's always going to be an added workload. It's always going to be like, oh crap, I lost my job. I got to start this business. Like it's always going to be something. And so taking the action, even if it's imperfect action, but small steps will eventually get you towards that. You'll look back and realize, wow, my business has been my sole source of income for the past 5 years. Like I did it. I've made it. And that's how, in 6 months on your exercise routine, you'll look back and say, I've been doing it. I've been doing it for 6 months. I've been meeting my goal. But allow yourself the grace and the time and the compassion and the love to get you there. All right. So to recap that, 1, set smaller goals. 2, set good enough goals. 3, focus on the progress that you've made, not on the outcomes. And 4 is have compassion for yourself, have love, and know that the learning curves and the ups and downs and the mistakes and the setbacks, all of that is just part of the process, and you're still making progress. There is no such thing as all or nothing. There is no such thing as success and failure. Last thing I'll say, I like to use that as an analogy I'll often give with clients as a stock graph. So and I use this with progress and making changes, but also with symptoms and reaching their goals as far as their health goes and how they feel. Because as much as we want the healing curve and our ability to implement new habits and changes, as much as we want that to be linear and we just get better and better and better every day, there's ups and downs. So I think of a stock graph. If you visualize a stock graph or literally pull one up, if you pull up like the S&P or whatever it is, the one day, let's say it's the biggest crash of the year, and it's like everything's in red and the whole thing is just plummeted, right? And it looks catastrophic on the 1 day view. But if you pull up the 1 year view, you see that that's like a blip. You can barely even see it on the graph. The whole thing is in the upward trajectory. That's how I like to think about creating change in your life and your health journey as a whole. You're probably making more progress than you realize if when you look back and think about where you were when you started. What did your eating look like? What did your lifestyle, your exercise, your sleep, what did that look like? And then your health, how do you feel now? What does that look like now? All right, everyone. I hope that helps. So think about it. When you go into the holidays now, don't just say, F it, I have no control over this. I'm just completely at the whim of whatever happens in my life. And think, what is important to you? What will keep you feeling your best physically, mentally, and emotionally as the holidays come around? Is avoiding gluten too hard and really doesn't maybe affect you all that much, but like sugar man, or alcohol, man, like those can really tank me. Cool, then just focus on those. What changes? How can you be in control? Okay, let me know what you think about this. Share this with someone that might need to hear this. But I look forward to hearing your feedback. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your week. I'll see you next week. Bye.